Let's do this. Hey guys, it's Jackie. Yesterday I shared a video to my Facebook that talked about detransitioning, which isn't necessarily a hot topic right now, but it's a controversial topic, definitely. And I wanted to share my 2 cents because it's a trans topic and I am trans, and this is my space to talk about trans topics with you. So let's jump in. I'm going to link the video below. That way you guys can go ahead and watch it, because I'm not going to take the time here to explain all about it. Sorry. So essentially the gist of it is that the interviewer is talking with 2 different interviewees about their experiences with detransitioning. They're both totally different experiences. So I'm just going to start talking about it. Here we go. I think I'm going to begin by saying that a lot of our concepts of gender are based on the binary. Okay? And so growing up, we have this concept of the binary really ingrained in us. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about, unfortunately, is going to stick in to that notion. A lot of trans terminology is like male to female, female to male. A lot of people, when they consider transitioning, it's from one gender to the other gender, which isn't necessarily the case. With gender being a spectrum, you can be transitioning from whatever you were assigned at birth to any gender. But since the binary is the main mode of thinking, and since it will be easiest for me to communicate to you about detransitioning with the binary kind of in place, I'm going to be referencing it. I'm really sorry. It shouldn't be like that, but it's going to be like that because we haven't progressed as a society far enough for it to not be like that. So the way I think about detransitioning, I think about there's like 3 main reasons why a trans individual would want to detransition. And I think they're all very valid reasons. The first, in order to explain the first one, I'm going to have to talk about passing. When you're trans, if you're trans, you know this. If you're not trans, buckle up because you're in for a wild ride. When you're trans, there is this concept of passing. It starts with passing, okay? Passing is when if you pass, you look like the gender you identify with. So for me, being a trans woman, in order for me to pass, I have to be perceived as a woman in society. And passing is a defense mechanism in a way. It's safe to pass. It's safe to rely on the binary because most of society does. And in order to do that, you have to rely on these conventional beauty standards, okay? In order to be valued, you have to be beautiful. And in order to be beautiful, you have to fit the parameters of what society deems beautiful is. So a lot of a trans person's transition is trying to hit those beauty standards, trying to reach those standards. But that's not the be-all end-all for transitioning. Not every trans person needs to or wants to hit those standards. And so as far as detransitioning goes, I can totally understand where if you've been taught this is how to be a woman, and you've been transitioning to become that woman your whole life, and then you get to a point where you're like, that's not the only way to be a woman. My way to be a woman is somewhere over here. And you have to backtrack a little bit to get to where you want to be. That's a totally valid reason for detransitioning. And then the second, let's let's use me as an example. I identified as a male when I thought I identified as a male when I was like in middle school and high school. And so I'm transitioning to become female. And let's say I transition all the way to becoming female. You know, I'm on hormones forever. I don't know what kind of surgeries I want, but I know like eventually top surgery, bottom surgery, which, I mean, there's a lot of different types of surgeries. I'm just being general because I don't want to disclose all my medical information or my plans necessarily yet. I'm going to be open about everything, but, you know, I don't really necessarily feel like this is the video where I'm going to talk about my genitalia and all that. So let's just say I get top surgery and bottom surgery. I'm on hormones forever. And then I am like complete my transition and I am female. And then I decide it doesn't feel like me and I want to become male again. And then I detransition back to male. That's the other side of detransitioning, I guess. And then the third reason why someone would maybe want to detransition, maybe it's not even a reason, maybe it's not from your own volition, but maybe you can't afford hormones anymore, or you're in a space where you don't have a support group to help you with your transition. And then in that case, it can be about safety. Going back to passing, if you don't pass, it can be safer to detransition so that you do pass as your gender you were assigned at birth. As unfortunate as that is, there are a lot of trans people who don't have the ability to transition. And so, and maybe you got the gumption and you got started and you were ready to go, and like the woman in their interview, you got jumped, you got attacked, and so you don't feel safe. But let's be real. Probably no trans person ever feels safe all the time. Feeling safe isn't a luxury when you're trans. But there are degrees of safety, and there are definitely trans people who are less safe, especially trans people of color, especially trans women of color. And so there are times where you might be forced to detransition in a sense. So far, I've essentially said I believe that detransitioning is a thing, which I do. And I believe that there are valid reasons why a trans person would want to detransition, which there are. But what I don't agree with is the skewing of the topic to fit a conservative agenda, which unfortunately happens all too often. You hear a story about a trans person who detransitions, and everyone jumps on it and says, that's because you're not supposed to be trans, it's against the Bible, blah, blah, blah. And that's not the case. It's just not the case. You can't manipulate someone's life like that to fit your narrative. It's just not how it works. I mean, you physically can, but like, you're an asshole if you do it. Bleh. You can't just take the numbers of trans people who are detransitioning and clump them all together and say, look how many people detransition. Look how many of these people have backtracked a little bit. And then jump to the conclusion that gender confirmation surgery and therapy aren't valid treatments for gender dysphoria. You can't make that jump because you don't know. You just don't know all those individual experiences. That's not to say that for some people transitioning is the right way. For some people, maybe transitioning is not the correct way to treat your dysphoria. But you can't just totally rule it out based on the fact that some trans individuals detransition. Did I explain myself well enough? If you have questions, ask me. Ask them. Leave them in the comments. If you agree with me, great. Let me know. If you disagree with me, that's also great. Let me know. I want to talk with you guys. For now, peace out. I'll see you guys next time, okay?